Hi guys, I'm going to sew Davina for you all. I'm going to try to tag a couple people first that asked me to tag them. See if it works. Okay. Not sure how to tag or to add people. Sorry guys. I'm trying to add these people before I get started. Okay, sorry about that. I got one tagged, Karen Reeves. I couldn't get her name to pull up though. Okay, so we're going to sew Davina. And you saw my pieces laid out earlier. We have the front piece. Ooh, not easy to hold up. The back piece, the back bottom. I'm doing the split back for this one. And the top. And then I have my arm bands and my neck band. To start with, we're going to sew the top of the back to the bottom of the back. Right sides together. Line it up. I'll just sew it on. Let me see if I can get you to see the machines better. And then just top stitch this seam toward the bottom. I always do the seam toward the bottom in case you add lace to the top of it. This string, that one too, and that's the back. It's one solid piece now. The pattern pieces are split, but they have a line so you can connect them and make one solid piece if you prefer the solid back. Now, and I'm working with limited space, so bear with me. Line up the shoulder seams and sew them. Well, you can see, if you look at it, there's a small spot here in the seam allowance. Just trim that off to make it straight. That's it. And now sew the side seams. Just line them up at the underarm. And just sew all the way down. don't know if you guys can see my serger. See if I can move it over. Sorry, Amanda. And I have mixed match serger thread because I ran out of thread and I didn't want to drive 30 minutes to get it. Now we're going to line up the other side and sew it. It's crazy how the camera mirrors everything. So, super simple. You have your basic top. Move my machine out of the way and I can show you better. Sewn at the shoulders and down both sides. Now turn it right side out. Hi, Kim. So far all we've done is sewn the back together to make it one full piece and sew the shoulder seams and the side seams together to make it a top. And I'm going to do the bands now. And I'm going to probably do it without an iron because getting to my iron is pain with the live stream. Put my machine back up here. I just folded it in half, right sides together, and sewed down one to make a continuous loop. I'm going to do that to both of the armbands also. Now, I always mark the opposite side from the seam on my armbands and my neckband. So I just flip them right side out. I'll just do one at a time to show you. We'll start with the armband and line up the opening, the arm opening, all the way up so you can see where the top center should be. So you can see it's a little toward the back because the back is longer than the front. Now, if you have your iron, go to your iron and iron this like bias tape. Fold the two centers in, or the two sides in toward the center, and then again in the center there. That will give you lines to line up when you're folding it onto the neckband. But I'm not going to do that. If someone needs to see how to do that, though, I can get my husband to help me get the camera and hold it by my iron. Okay, pin the armband inside of the arm opening. Right sides of the armband to the wrong side of the opening. This is so when you sew it on, after you sew the first time, you're going to flip it out, in and back down, and it'll be right side out. Nobody said they needed it. I think we're okay. I am. It does need stretched. The armband does need stretched just a little to fit the opening. You can see underneath that the white is showing on the band. You can easily do that on your sewing machine also. I find it easier to sew that with the serger just because my serger's set for 1/4 of an inch and it just makes it easier for me. You can sew either way. Now, if you had ironed like the pattern calls for, it looks good. Oh. If you had ironed like the pattern called for, then you would have your lines lined up already for where you would be folding. You would just be refolding it. But I didn't iron, so I'm having to fold mine. And all I'm doing is folding the seam allowance in, folding this side down or in, and then folding the whole thing down so that it makes like bias tape armband. If you prefer the folded armbands, you could just fold yours and go that route. Not a big deal. Tyson, I think I knocked my pins off. Can you see them? On that side over there.
Huh? No. No.
Thank you.
You're stuck to the metal on your table.
Serging for me is just easier, but you can just stitch it on with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. The only reason I use my serger is because my serger's set for a 1/4 inch and my sewing machine I almost always leave at 3/8 inch, so it's just easier for me to use my serger for this, and it's quicker for me. And I'll do the other armband in a moment. I don't usually pin so much on mine, so I'm trying to pin and show you how to pin it too. Now slide it onto your machine. And we're just going to the right foot pedal, we're just going to stitch along this edge. And this is why I don't usually use pins when I do mine, because I always have to remove them and reposition anyway. I do that a lot too. And that's one of the armbands sewn on. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other one. Make sure I get the armband and not the neckband, since I didn't label them this time. Okay, I'm going to go over it slowly again for anyone just joining. So I marked this side opposite of my seam. Just a second. Sorry. Then I line up my arm opening,
Starting with the seam,
and go up so that we can mark the center top. Place the armband onto the wrong side, the inside of the shirt. The right side of the armband lining up with the wrong side of the shirt. Start at the seam, and you can go around slowly. If you're going to use your sewing machine, it's easiest to pin slowly and just pin all the way around. But since I'm using my serger, I'm only using 2 pins. One at the seam and one at the top. And then I will just stretch the armband to fit as I sew. There's several different types of knit. This one is cotton lycra, and it is actually one of my favorite to work with. Also, I have some brushed poly here, which works great for the shirt too. And I don't have anything else in here with me, but I know several testers used the double brushed poly for their shirts, and I've used the cotton lycra for several of mine and my daughter's, and I also used store-bought t-shirts. I went to the women's department and bought some shirts and upcycled them for her some shirts. Again, I'm only using my serger because it's easier and quicker for me. I'm trying to cut off as little as I can. The armband does need stretched a little. It doesn't need stretched a lot. But I would look for I wouldn't look for a heavyweight knit for this. I would look for a medium or lighter weight would be best. Probably, if you're searching online, probably around 9 to 10 ounce. Okay, so we've got that sewn on. The armband's inside. And again, if you had ironed, I told earlier in the pattern it actually says to iron like bias tape. And the only reason that you iron it is so that you have those lines to follow. The fold lines. But I didn't iron mine, so I just fold the seam allowance in, fold this side down, and fold it over. And I do that all the way around, and I sew it. I'm not going to pin this time. Some testers did folded armbands and neckband, and it worked out just fine. I know Tabitha Drone did one with folded, and it's really cute. It's just a little wider of a band than the bias one. And if you're not comfortable sewing it this way, then you can definitely do the folded or do the other way of sewing bias on, where you fold it and pin it on and sew it all at once. We have both armbands done. And I'm trying to take my time and talk everybody through everything. Now for the neck, line up your shoulder seams. It usually only takes me about 15-20 minutes to sew one of these now. Match up your back and place a pin. And match up your center for your front. Pin's in my way. And place a pin. I find that pinning takes me so long that I just started trying it without pinning, which I've been sewing a long time. It takes a little practice at first, but it's actually a lot easier for me now. And mark the center straight across from the seam. The seam will be lined up with this back pin. And the other pin we put in will be lined up with the front. I'll move this and get my serger back over here. Sorry, I'm really on limited space. Since I am tearing up the floor in my sewing room, I have to sew in the living room. And hopefully by the end of August, everything will be repaired and I will have my sewing room back. Anybody have any questions? And now we have the neckband attached. Again, and I always start at the back seam. Oh, yeah. But it's great that you got to turn it into something. We actually, my dining room is my sewing room right now. But when we turned it into a sewing room a few years ago, and when we tear up the floor, we're actually going to switch the kitchen and the dining room around. So my sewing room's going to be in the other room. We have to finish 2 rooms before I have my sewing room back. And we're tearing up all the way to all the joists and out, and redoing all of the joists, and the outer beam is bad, so we're having to redo it too. So all I'm doing is the same thing I did on the arm, fold it in and fold it over. I find this much faster than taking my time and pinning all of it, because I have to pin it and then I have to remove the pins. Oh, I broke my thread. I have to rethread my machine. Hold on, guys.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm gonna line it back up where I stopped. Hi, Kathy. So now we have the neckband and the armbands done, and I still missed that string. Hold on. There. Neckband and the armbands are done, and all that's left is hemming it. And this, again, I'm not going to pin. I prefer to just fold mine up approximately 1/2 inch and hem around. You can fold 1/4 and then fold up 1/2, and it will hide all of your seams, but I don't do that. I start at this corner, or at this seam, and I fold it and so. I use my guides here to know how far to fold it to, so that I can keep it lined up all the way around and not have it uneven. These corners come to a point, so I stop at the corner and I fold it over like this so I can hem the back. It's just folding it back onto itself. if you prefer not to have the point, because I know a few people do prefer not to have the point, you can always cut that point off and make it rounded. And that's it. We clip these strings. And I can have my daughter come in and try it on, show you.
I'm gonna holler at her.
You should try knit, Natasha. It's not as scary as it seems. It does stretch. In the beginning, use pins and you'll be just fine. But it's all sewn. You can see the bottom comes out in an A-line and comes out to points. Any other questions? Give you a couple minutes and here, you want to get Cassandra and put this on her? Thank you. I'm going to have her put it on real quick and then I will
Cassandra, come here.
show it to you.
Cassandra. No, not like that. Not
Sorry.
yet. Come here. All the way in.
Thank you guys. Serger's not too hard to use. It's actually fairly easy.
The thing goes in the back, right?
Yes. Hold on, he's getting her
Yeah, go
with
there,
the
go
shirt
there.
on. Come here. I'll take her out here. Show her.
Have a look.
So I can switch this. She's out here playing in the yard and she had her other Davina on. Let me show you guys. Turn around, see the back. You like it? She picked out the fabric for it. Okay, say bye.
Bye.
Alright guys, thanks for watching and I hope it helps. It's actually a lot easier to sew than what you think. I got kids bombarding me. Alright, thanks guys. If you have any questions, just post them in the comments and I'll come in and read them. And it was fun.